Today we are going to spend some time looking at the sad and tragic tale of broken bones. And when I say that, I mean it seriously, because this is going to be my story. I'm going to share my experience from this past year with you, which has been kind of an interesting journey. And it's really kind of one of those, oh my goodness, kinds of things. Here's the story. I am 60 years old, and I had never, ever broken a bone in my body until March of this year. And when I slipped on that ice early that very dark morning in March, and I slipped on the ice and I landed full force on the sidewalk with all of my weight on my arm, I broke some bones. And then just after that healed and I got the cast off, then I broke some more bones. I fell down some stairs and broke some bones in the same arm. So it was not a ton of fun, but having made up for the living a charmed life and now having a history of broken bones, I'm going to get into this and share you what this really has to do with iridology. Okay. So you may, if you've been around iridology for a while, you've heard this story before. And yay, we've got Orly joining us from Toronto. Thank you so much for letting me know where you are. I really appreciate that. The story goes, that is told in iridology circles, is that Ignatz von Peczely was a very young boy. He was 11 years old. He caught an owl, or an owl had landed on his arm, or somehow he got this owl, and this owl somehow ended up with a broken leg. Ignatz noticed something in the owl's eye and noticed this black line forming, and then noticed the black line disappearing. Now, there's so many versions of this story out there that no one really knows which one is true. This was in the 1800s. And this is what Bill Cardona, who is the founder of, one of the co-founders of what is now the International Iridology Practitioners Association, says. Modern iridology can't explain the owl story. Von Peczely's story from a very long time ago has not been reproduced. So there have been no veterinarians who have ever noticed the same thing happen in any animal's eye. So it's a waste of time, as Bill says, to repeat the story. It just creates confusion. Critical thinking is required when applied to any topic. Now, a big part of the difference here is that owls have different eye structure than humans. Okay. However, knowing that, oh, and Theodora's from Toronto too. Thank you for that. Knowing that these are my eyes from 2 years ago. This is my left iris, and you can see all of the specs of how the camera settings were set up there. F-stop 6.3, shutter speed 1/60, and the ISO of 800 on my beautiful, wonderful digital iridology camera, right? So we have these pictures from 2017, and I'm so glad we did, because what I want you to notice as you look at this picture is that if you are using any kind of an iris map that shows an arm reaction field, that arm reaction field would be in, oh my goodness, try to keep away from the bottom of the image. Okay, we're going to make this image bigger then. There we go. That arm reaction field would show up at about 4 o'clock in the left arm. Now, that's great, right? 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I did not have anything showing up in that left eye in the arm reaction field. Some tiny bits of reflexives, a bit of rarefaction, but that had always been there. Nothing had changed. I want you to hold this image in your mind's eye. Greg, thank you for being with us from Tecumseh. Appreciate that. Here I am, March 13th, 2019. You can see from there that my wrist has a very unusual shape. This is about 2 hours after having a very intimate impact with some ice. And this is as I was at the hospital waiting for assessment, waiting for x-rays. And so you can see that that's not normal, right? We all agree that's not normal. Even the look on my face says, I'm not happy being here. This is the break you're looking at right here. So I hope this doesn't make anybody wishy-headed or upset your stomach or anything, but you can see that bone is definitely broken. I was taken, this was taken after they tried to do a closed reduction. So they knocked me out. Man, those drugs were good. Sure, I lived, but I don't remember a thing, thank goodness, where they yanked and pulled and massaged. My husband watched it. He says they had two nurses holding my upper arm and one pulling on my lower wrist, or an orthopedic specialist pulling on my lower wrist, trying to massage the bones into place, and did not work. And so as they discovered that this was not going to work, they prepped me for surgery. And so you can still see we've got breaks in here that are not well lined up. They're good, but they're not great. And the doctors were not impressed with that. And they figured I'm young enough at 60 that they wanted this to be a better job. So what did they recommend? They recommended surgery. And so with that surgery, so we've got a couple of traumas here. We've got actually two broken bones. I broke the little nubby bone off my wrist here. And I broke the other bone, and you can see that big crack really well. Okay, so this was a day or two after the surgery with the post-surgical slab cast on. My fingers are so swollen I could barely move them, and that was the big exercise for the day, was just trying to get those fingers to move the fluid out of them. So I had presence of mind literally 2 days after this accident. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I should do this as a study. I need to do this. So I came into my office, which is located in my home, which makes it so much easier to get to. And in that, still recovering from a 3-hour general anesthetic, which is how long it took to put the pieces in my arm that needed to be put in, I set up my Iridology camera and I took pictures of my eye. The f-stop is a little bit different. The shutter speed is the same. The ISO is still 800. And when you look at that 4 o'clock mark, 4 o'clock spot in this left iris image, you will see it looks exactly the way it looked in the March 2017. Isn't that convenient that they were 2 years apart? March 2017 image. And so again, the settings are slightly different, but you can see there are still the reflexives, there's still a bit of rarefaction. Nothing else has changed. And that is considering that I now sport metallic hardware in my arm. I am semi-bionic. I have 2 metal plates in my arm and 12 screws in my arm that have held those bones together while they have healed beautifully and remarkably. And so we need then, oh, and another view, so you can see both of those plates and screws really well, right? We've got 1, 2 holding, this is holding the little nubby bone on, this is holding the big bone together. So now I've tested this at the airport, and I do not set off metal detectors, which is really cool, because that would not be a lot of fun. I had to go through the airport when I had a cast on my arm, and I'll explain that in a moment. And this is the incision. They did one of the incisions, or 2 incisions. So there's that one, which is on the underside of my wrist, and then there's the one on the other side, 2 weeks post-surgery, and that is what it all looked like. But what did my eyes look like 2 weeks post-surge? So 2 weeks later, we've got the surface wounds are all healing well. Everything is looking great. We go back to the eyes on the 3rd of April, and we look at that 4 o'clock marking. 4 o'clock, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. The reflexes are still there. The slight bit of rarefaction is still there. Everything is exactly as it was in 2017. So let's take another look here and look at the 3 images side by side, so that if you're having problems holding all of those images in your mind's eye, you can see here that we've got the exact same trabeculae, we've got the exact same reflexive, we've got the exact same rarefaction, we've got nothing else. There's no black line appearing or disappearing, nothing. Okay, so just to prove this point, I'm sure that's the only reason I did this. 9 weeks after this arm incident, we were at our son's house and I tripped on his stairs going down, and I landed full force on my left arm on a ceramic tile floor. And I broke the olecranon off right there. So the olecranon is this bone here that does your pointy part of your elbow, and it is attached up here. And when it's not attached, you actually cannot move your arm because it's where all of your ligaments and tendons and all that kind of stuff attach to. So I snapped that olecranon off. You will be pleased to know that in the presence of my children, 4 grandchildren in that family, I did not say one bad word. I'm laying there on the floor, writhing in agony, holding my elbow, trying not to pass out from the pain. And all I'm saying is, oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. When I finally had the ice pack on it and was holding it and I could actually get up with assistance, we headed out to the hospital. And that is what my elbow looked like while we were again waiting for an assessment. Now, I personally thought after this incident that they should be giving frequent flyer points, right, for showing at the hospital twice with similar incidents that are going to obviously require surgical intervention. They did the x-ray, but they did not even try to set this because it would not have worked anyways. So we went back into surgery where they inserted all kinds of interesting hardware. This is me with my elbow slab cast and firm instructions to not move that arm at all, to not use it for anything, to only use my fingers and keep the swelling down, but to not move the arm whatsoever. I discovered, and this is just a side note for any of you who end up in this situation with a great big hunk and cast on your arm, scrub tops are the answer. Because they are smooth, they are slippery, and they have big sleeves, so you can get your cast through them. So there we go, scrub tops. And they also have lots of little pockets on them and wide necklines, and it just makes it so easy. So what did my eye look like after this? So this is my eye on the 27th of May, and I fell down. I actually broke my elbow on Mother's Day, and that was May 12th this year. So this was a couple weeks later. I was not feeling quite so, oh my goodness, perky, let's try to follow this. I was just feeling kind of ticked off that this had happened again. But as you look at the eye and you look at that 4 o'clock zone or the 20-minute zone where a lot of eye charts put the arm reaction field, there's nothing. There is nothing there. So nothing in my eye changed. Here's my wrist again from the 25th. The bones have healed beautifully. Here's my elbow with hooks, or they call them pins, and wire in it to hold the olecranon in place so that it would actually properly reattach. So the olecranon is right down here, and they had to anchor it into both the ulna and the radius. Or the pin is in here, and this wire actually goes down and through the arm and gets twisted around here, and then they tighten it up real strong to pull the olecranon up against the end of the bone and hold it in place. Again, with strict instructions that that once the cast came off, the only action I could do was to let gravity extend the arm down. I was never to use my muscles for that first 4 weeks after the surgery to pull my arm up again. Not a ton of fun. So a few months later in September, what did the arm look like? I'm looking at that 20-minute zone where the eye is supposed to be, and there's nada. There's nothing. There's no black line. There's no black line that disappeared. There's nothing. So what have I shown you with this? What have I shown you with this? What I've shown you is something that constitutional iridology has been saying for years, and like since it became a thing. And that is that the eyes show us inherent potentials. If what has happened or if what you are doing is not changing your genetic structure or is not triggered by your genetic structure, it's not going to show up in your eyes. Okay, now is that blowing your mind? If you've got training that is more North American, and they're saying you can cleanse and change your eye color, you're going to see healing lines, you're going to see stuff like that, that's not correct information. It's absolutely not correct information. It's based on outdated stuff. It's been disproved. What we do know, and what you've seen here, is that because breaks and physical trauma don't change your genetic structure at all, they also don't change what we see in the iris. All right, so that's just an important little piece for us to keep in mind. We're not doing iridology to see if we can change the eyes. When we do constitutional iridology, we're doing it to understand how the body is put together, how the body parts work together, because when we understand that, we understand on a much deeper level what we can do with nutrition to help the body work better, not to help change the eyes, because that's really irrelevant. What we can do to help maximize the body's function, support the body in good ways, and help our client feel better and be in control of more of their health by the choices they are making. When we do constitutional iridology, I don't give a whatever, that if the eyes change or not, because they're not going to. I care about whether my clients are feeling the impact of the changes we are making in their everyday health and their everyday energy. And if they are, we are being successful, we are working in the right direction. So important for us to remember that breaks and sprains and physical traumas, even toxic exposures, don't show up in the eyes. The accumulation of sulfur doesn't show up in the eyes. Not at all. That's old, that's gone. Trauma, breaks, surgeries don't show up in the eyes because they don't change our genetic structure. So just wanted to, with that, give you a little heads up. If constitutional iridology sounds like it might be of interest to you, if you don't already do it, and I actually see Helen here, who is a student of mine. Hi, Helen, good to see you. I invite you to get on the mailing list. Go to iridology.education and it will bring up a pop-up that will allow you to download a constitutional iridology map. And with that, it will also add you to my database, which will keep you apprised of when there's more information coming up about the next course. Now, the next course is starting Wednesday, January 15th. It is taught via live webinar, so it's online, but it's live interactive. Our class time is 5 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. And again, if you want to get on that list, I invite you to hop on over to iridology.education. When that little pop-up window comes up, get in there and enter your information. That will get you the map and as well get you on the email list to be aware of when these kinds of events are happening, because I do these twice a week, as well as for information for when the next class registration is open. So I hope you found that informative and interesting. Maybe it challenged some beliefs that you've been practicing with for many years. And if it has, that's great. We should always be questioning what we know and looking for better, more current, more up-to-date information. And with that, that's all I have for you today. I hope you have a fabulous day, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks so much. Bye for now.